Nata Edwards joins the podcast. He has a do not draft list. He has hot draft takes. And we have a tweet from Mike Lacett on a certain draft prospect that might not want to work out or might not want to play with LaMelo Ball. Interesting stuff. All today, Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your podcast, and that does include YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time?
Game Time.
Download the Game Time map, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Walker Mail. You can listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m., except for this week. I'm filling in for the Kyle Bailey Show from 3 to 6 p.m. So that was yesterday. That's going to be today, tomorrow. We're back to regularly scheduled programming next week. Doug Branson, everyhornetsboxscore.com. He also hosts Locked On NBA with Matt Moore and Hayes. And then we got somebody else joining us today. It's the family member, Nata Edwards, producer of the Ion College Basketball Podcast. You can find him and his hot draft takes on Twitter at Nata the Scribe. Nata, have you been behaving yourself lately?
I try. People bring the smoke to me at this point, and I want them to stop bringing me the smoke because I don't
believe you. Don't believe you. I don't believe you.
All I say is, hey, maybe we don't draft this guy. Maybe we don't draft this guy, and people get upset. It's not my fault.
Well, we have a do not draft list from you, and Doug was teasing me. He was teasing me about all of the hot takes that you were texting him. He did not tell me what your hot takes were, so I'm excited to get to all of that today. But first, we got to get to your do not draft list. There is someone that many people are speculating is in the Hornets. It's in the Hornets' chances of taking him. Like there's a shot here. Who is that guy for you, Nata, that is being linked to the Hornets, but you don't want them to draft?
Let's start with Kon Knueppel. Let's start with the big one. Let's start with the whale. Quite literally, Kon Knueppel is a fine piece if you're trying to finish off a roster. He's a nice, fine connective tissue. That's great. The Hornets don't need connective tissue. They need kind of a cornerstone piece. If you're telling me that the Hornets are taking a cornerstone piece in a Trey Johnson and a VJ Edgecombe, cool. I'm not the biggest Kon Knueppel guy because I think he tops out probably as fifth starter, maybe really good sixth man. I'm not, for what he does, for the measurements that he has, for the slow shuttle time, I'm not sure he's an actual connective piece. He's much more. There are guys that are trying to put him in this Lou Dort range. I can't go there with that. There are guys that are trying to put him in the Klay Thompson. I can't go there with that. I do think he's kind of I've made the joke he's Christmas socks before. That's kind of what it is. Again, if they draft him, it'll be like I'm a 13-year-old kid. It's Christmas morning, and you know what my grandmother got me? Instead of that nice Nintendo 64, they got me socks. Mm-hmm. And that's all I got, socks.
Well, that's fine. You know what? Your grandmother is very responsible. She's just trying to keep your feet warm. Socks are great. Socks are a human innovation that has probably saved our feet from many infections, keeping them warm. Christmas socks are great. What are you talking about? Yeah, sorry, it wasn't a Nintendo 64. We can't all have Nintendo 64s. I think connective tissue is great. The Hornets need both. They need to continue to stone corners, and they also need to continue to find players that can help the cornerstones that they've already drafted and Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball. You've already knocked it out of the park in the top of the draft. It's time for connective tissue. Connective tissue.
Whoa.
Can I ask this question though?
Yeah.
What in the last let's be kind here. What in the last 3 years says that they've developed any sort of cornerstones?
Well, they believe it. I mean, it seems like it at least. I mean, they seem to be all in on LaMelo Ball. They seem to be all in on Brandon Miller.
But I would also argue that might be a fool's errand at this point. You won 19 games, and it wasn't like you could have lost even more, and you could have won less. I don't think you necessarily have cornerstones. You might think you have cornerstones, But when you win 19 games, I don't think you have any cornerstones. You have guys that you might like to be cornerstones, but you don't actually have them.
So if Kon Knueppel isn't the guy for you at 4, is it one of those situations where you are fine with the player, just not at 4? Would you trade back and take him? Or if they traded back, let's go, I'm struggling again, folks. If they trade back all the way to 8, would you take Knueppel there?
Is Cam Johnson coming? Because if Cam Johnson comes, that's a completely different scenario for me, where if you're telling me Cam Johnson 8 and 26, sure.
I guess I'm just talking about the range, though, right? Like, how much of it? Where I'll ask you simply, where would you feel comfortable drafting Kon Knueppel in this draft?
7, 8, 9.
Okay.
If outside of the Trey Johnson range, because I think Trey Johnson's just a vastly better shooter, and if you're going to go get a shooter, quote unquote shooter, go get the best shooter in the draft. Go get the best shot maker in the draft.
All right, so Kon Knueppel is on the do not draft list for all intents and purposes for the Charlotte Hornets. Is there somebody else on the do not draft list according to Nata Edwards?
I'm so glad you asked, because Khaman Maluach, center from Duke. We've seen, I think it's Jonathan Wasserman. I've seen Rafael Barlow attach him to Charlotte, and I'm of the mind at this point, if you're going to go draft a project center, there are other centers that you can go do this in the 20s with, and you have 2 picks in the 30s that you can go get that are better suited. If you're going to go get Khaman Maluach, it just tells me that you're still not necessarily sure about what you have in center, and I don't necessarily blame you, but I would much rather the Hornets go get a veteran center, an actual veteran center, rather than go draft a Khaman Maluach that is very, very, very clearly going to take at least 2 or 3 years. More importantly, I think there are better centers that you can have in the 20s. I think Thomas Sorber of Georgetown would be a perfect center to bring in along slowly, and by the end of the season probably would start for you. I think there are a lot of different pieces. I think Maluach at 4 is an overdraft, and a horrifically bad one at that.
Well, I think everyone is they know my opinion on Khaman Maluach. That I think he's a great guy, great player, could be for some other system, not for the Hornets. And something I don't know that I've talked about a lot is, like, if the Hornets were full of wing defenders or point of attack defenders that could help Maluach come along, and not put all the pressure on him to defend the rim, then maybe it would be a better situation for him. But that's not the case with the Charlotte Hornets. They need, when Nata says they need veteran talent back there, they need high IQ. They need, like, experienced talent back there that's going to know what's coming at them, because they're going to have a lot, with the way that this guard rotation is structured. So, yeah, I'm out on Maluach, and good luck.
So, all right, go ahead, Doug. I can't talk. I need you to take care of me.
Well, so what about Ace Bailey here? Is he on your do not draft list as well? Because right now he has basically canceled all workouts with any team. He is Jesus take the wheel at this point. Just to wherever I land, I think I'm top 3, so take me there or take me wherever at this point. Do you think he's going to go to Philadelphia at 3? Do you think it's all smoke? If he falls to the Hornets at 4, do they have to take him because the talent is just too irresistible?
Let's be real here. He's trying to get to Brooklyn. This is all this is about. Because
really,
if you remember the Gavoni tweets, the Gavoni story, I believe it was, Ace Bailey is looking for a place that he can go play immediate minutes and go play a lot of minutes at the outset.
He wants to be a star. He wants to be a star, and he wants to be a star immediately.
That place is Brooklyn. That is very clearly, nakedly Brooklyn. I have Ace on here for another reason, do not draft, on top of the positional fit. But most importantly, it's very clear in the last, 18 hours, that his representation has horribly done this dude a disservice. And if we've learned anything about how representation carries out and makes things worse in this locker room, at this point in the time of the Charlotte Hornets culture, you can't draft that kind of guy, because that kind of representation ends up carrying a stench with you, carrying just an attitude with you. It reminds me, unfortunately, a lot of Lance Stevenson, where there were people around Lance, similarly to there are people around Ace that probably need to go. And until he realizes it, it's one of those things where it's not a right fit.
Well, and interestingly enough, you bring up Gavoni and all these reports. I think what's interesting about bringing up, as we affectionately call him, Phony Gavoni, maybe not so affectionately. When we bring up Phony Gavoni, the original reports from him on Ace were all glowing.
Yep.
Right? He was carrying the water for his representation. He was saying how great he is, that Ace Bailey is the third ranked prospect, that you don't overthink this, you don't pass over him. Okay, so that was, I guess, a month ago. Then this week, it's actually from Gavoni that we hear some of this stuff go on about, well, he's not working out with anybody. There are teams that are really worried about Ace and his representation. So I think the fact that you're hearing some of these things from Gavoni specifically tells you a lot. Where at first he, for some reason, I mean, not for some reason, he's carrying the water for the agent, right? But because of that reason at the beginning, he was telling you not to overthink it. Now he's telling you what all of these other teams are saying, and it looks like you don't want to be the odd man out. So the fact that it's coming from Gavoni, I think actually tells me a lot, given what he was originally reporting a month ago. So
a little bit of a peel back to the curtain. This was going on last week. Like people were the talk last week was about Ace, and specifically Ace's representation. Like a lot of this was starting to be a thing as early as last week. Again, you saw Sam Vecini effectively allude to all of this.
Yeah.
Like, again, Jeff Goodman was telling you about Omar and his thing and him trying to charge for interviews and everything else like that.
It felt like once this came out, everybody that had any knowledge of it said send tweet. They had it in the drafts. They were ready for it to come out, and then they pressed send tweet because it was already in there after the reports came out.
Like I had someone tell me like offhand about Ace quite literally last week. I like Ace. I've met Ace. I've dealt with Ace during this draft process, and I wish he'd get rid of the people around him. Like effectively, that's what he told me. And a lot of this has to do with his agent.
Doug, before we move on, just one more thing on Ace. How much should that affect what you do? If it's not Ace, and then you sent us the Keith Pompey quote with some of the guys he was talking to within Philly's organization, saying that Ace isn't a bad guy. It's not that he's immature. It's that he's age-appropriate mature, where he's just kind of silly. He might be dancing in layup lines, but like it's not like it's a huge deal. So if it's the agent that is the biggest issue, like you could change representation. You could change agents. Players do it a decent amount. I don't know how many rookies do it. Certainly not at this point in the process. How much should that affect anything that the Hornets and any other team does when selecting Ace?
I think the Hornets are highly leveraged on Goofy. I think we've got enough Goofy. I think they need to buy a little bit more stock into serious player. And it's one of the things that I love about Trey Johnson. I love about Kon Knueppel. I think Kon Knueppel is like a serious hooper. Like he's obsessed with basketball. So is Trey Johnson. VJ Edgecombe is super serious. So I think you have three players right in the Hornets range that all fill certain needs that the Hornets have, and they all seem to be serious about wanting to be a good pro. Because look, getting into the league, particularly as a rookie, is going to be very difficult no matter what situation you find yourself in. But when you come into a young locker room, I think it is important to make sure that you're getting culture matches for what you want the culture to be, not necessarily even the guys that you have in the locker room. It's not about matching them. It's about matching what you want everyone else to model. And I think that's not, what I'm seeing in Ace Bailey. It is what I'm seeing from some of these other prospects.
All right, maybe one of those prospects doesn't want to play with the Hornets because a certain player is also playing for the Hornets. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
Mike Lacett had a tweet about a prospect not wanting to play with LaMelo Ball, possibly. We'll get to that coming up next, LOH. This episode is brought to you by Olipop. It's a new kind of soda, and it's made for people who love the classic taste of soda, but want something that supports their health. With just 2 to 5 grams of sugar and 9 grams of prebiotic fiber in every can, Olipop is reimagining soda in a way that's better for your gut. I know Doug is excited about that. Traditional sodas are loaded with sugar, like 39 grams in a regular Coke or 44 grams in an orange Fanta. Olipop flips that script with just a fraction of the sugar, no artificial sweeteners, sweeteners, and gut-friendly ingredients like Ollie Smart, a blend shown to support digestive and overall health. It's a soda that tastes like the real thing, but actually does something good for your body. I told you, Olivia's all over it. I'm all over it, especially the lemon lime soda. There are other great flavors out there, but I keep going back to the lemon lime. It's refreshing. I love going to that flavor in particular, but you can try whatever flavor you want. Get a free can of Olipop. Just buy any 2 cans in store and they'll reimburse you for one. Head to drinkolipop.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OLI Pop, by the way, not 2 L's, only one, OLIPop.com, LockedOnNBA, to claim your free can and find Olipop near you. That's drinkolipop.com/LockedOnNBA. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Okay, here's the tweet from Mike Lacett of Queen City News. Quote, spoke with a source tonight who told me at least one draft lottery pick refused to work out with the Hornets out of a desire not to play with LaMelo Ball. Again, Mike Lacett of Queen City News. Okay, I'll go to you, Nata. Big deal, not a big deal. What are your thoughts?
Like, we all know who this is, right? Like, we all know this is Jeremiah Fears, right?
Got my guesses. That would be one. Yeah, that would be one.
I'm pretty sure it's Jeremiah Fears. So it doesn't bother me. I would, if I'm Jeremiah Fears, I wouldn't want him to work out here because, again, how many of those small guards actually win games in the playoffs? Not many. And if you're Darius Garland, you need another small, dynamic small guard in Donovan Mitchell to actually win games in the playoffs. So yeah, again, Jeremiah Fears doesn't want to play here. That's perfectly fine. But like, I understand, I get where Mike Lacett was trying to go with this. I do understand that this is kind of a spicy headline. I also think it's kind of unfair to throw this on LaMelo Ball because let's be real here. This is a positional fit, not necessarily about LaMelo Ball.
Yeah, it's not clarified. Go ahead, Doug.
Well, that's the whole thing. If this is a positional fit deal, it's like, yeah, what's the big deal? Obviously, like if you're a point guard and you want to be drafted top 5 in the NBA draft, you don't want to come into a situation where you're not only going to spend the majority of the season, if he's healthy, the majority of the season on the bench, but you're going to be doing it behind a guy who had some of the highest usage in the NBA last season. So even if you crawl on the floor with him, you're never going to see that basketball. So, yeah, I mean, that would be obvious. If it's another player that it's not about positional fit with, if it's VJ Edgecombe, if it's whatever, if it's Trey Johnson or Kon Knueppel, and they're looking at the LaMelo Ball situation and saying, yeah, that is too much usage, and I'm not sure if our personalities match and if that makes much sense for me. Like, if that's what it's about, that is more concerning, but we just simply don't know what any of that means.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you, man. I don't think this is a big deal at all in either situation, in whatever situation you want to cook up. Like,
well, players not wanting to play for Charlotte is in the NBA draft is not it's not an unfamiliar thing for us.
I've developed bulletproof skin when it comes to this. Oh, you want to play for Charlotte? All right, we'll take you anyway. Oh, you don't want to work out for Charlotte?
It's
all right,
draft. That's not how it works, buddy.
In fact, there used to be a time. In fact, there still might even be a little bit of this time that we're living in right now, where it's more likely that the Hornets take you if you don't work out for them. That there was stretch of time where
James Najee.
James Najee didn't want to get drafted here. It was funny. A second-round pick did not want to come overseas because he didn't want to play for Mitch Kupchak, and Kupchak said, I don't care, which is hilarious about Kupchak. He really didn't care.
How'd that work out for
a lot
everyone?
of players' opinions. Yeah, it worked out great. I love you, Najee. Shout out to Najee. I'm sure he's balling wherever he is, whatever league he's playing in.
I think.
I like Mike. I think he's a good dude. I've worked with him before. But the thing for me is this is such a non-issue for me. A couple things. Positional fit, you guys already talked about. If it's a Stephon Castle-like thing where Castle is trying to tell people he wants to play point guard, and then you have LaMelo who's already a point guard, or he's trying to steer himself away from other teams that have an established point guard, you're just the Spurs, and then you draft Stephon and you put him in the best position to succeed, and he wins Rookie of the Year if he buys in. Okay, so we can move on from that. If it's Jeremiah Fears, if it's somebody else that views themselves as an on-ball, primary ball handler, whatever you want to call them, then, okay, you draft him if you're Charles Lee, and then you have him run second unit for a while. You see what their future looks like. Cool. If it's something that he doesn't like LaMelo Ball, I need to know how in the hell do you know him like that? Because we have never heard any other player have any disparaging word about LaMelo. Not really. I've not heard anything. Miles loves him. Like Mark Williams loves him. There are so many. Brandon Miller and LaMelo are friends. That's the kind of thing about LaMelo where he's goofy, right? We can talk about the being serious defensively. We can have some of these conversations about LaMelo. Being a bad teammate, that does not seem to be one of them. So if one of these players gets word through his agent, who represents another player, who heard something from another player, and they said, "Nah, I don't really mess with LaMelo like that." Okay, or what are we doing? Are we playing the telephone game? You heard something and now you don't want to play? Like, I need to know how much you know LaMelo, and I just don't care. I find no matter how you want to slice it, I do not care about this tweet. I do not care about what this draft prospect says about LaMelo. To me, it's just a non-issue.
As it should be, and quite honestly, if it were anybody, like let's say it's Kon, let's say it's Trey, let's say it's VJ, and they don't want to play, they don't want to work out here. Like, unfortunately, there's this beautiful thing called footage and film, and we can figure out essentially how you work out here. Mm-hmm. And then we have things like background, because all these trainers know all these other trainers, as we kind of figured out with the whole Tajon Salon situation where you saw that clip. And guess whose agent whose trainer that was? Trey Johnson's. So there's a lot of this where there's enough, and I'll use connective tissue again, but there's enough connective tissue to where even if you didn't want to come here and you didn't want to give this team or franchise any information, too late. It's already out there.
Well, it's also silly. Like, I think it's a little knock against your intelligence if you're a point guard and you don't want to come play in Charlotte, where the point guard is making a lot of money and does take a lot of shots, but doesn't play a lot of games. Like, there has been plenty of opportunity for Nick Smith Jr. and for
KJ Simpson got minutes immediately as a second-round pick. He got,
Like, exactly. There's just so much opportunity here. Unfortunately for Hornets fans and unfortunately for the team itself, there's been plenty of opportunities for those players to get some shine. So if this is Jeremiah Fears or if it is another point guard, I would say, do your homework, do your research.
Yeah, and the other thing is, with this tweet from Mike, I would like a little more clarity on it, because it's a 2-line breaking news type tweet that says the draft prospect doesn't want to work out because he does not want to play with LaMelo. Can we get any reason as to why? Like, did you follow up?
Not how this works.
Well, but it could. Like, what you could do is you could ask why. You could ask if it's a positional issue or if it's a personal issue, and if the agent could answer that question, or you could ask it. The agent say no comment, and then you say it was not clarified as to why they didn't want to play with LaMelo. There needed to be a follow-up question, or there needed to be some clarity in this tweet for me. Or unless you just wanted this, right? Unless you wanted the podcast to talk about it. And to your point, I guess, Doug, sometimes that is how it works. But it doesn't mean that I don't get to ask you for, clarity and a little bit more refining of your tweet.
No, I don't like that this is how it works, but this is how it works. And if LaMelo Ball were in a bigger market, a more serious market, like New York or L.A., like his father wants him to go to L.A. and play for the Clippers, like you better believe there are going to be all kinds of people coming out of the woodwork doing stuff like this. Like, that's the whole game. And again, you don't have to you can love or hate the game, but that's the game. And so he's just getting just a small little micro taste of it here from Mike Lacett in Charlotte.
Yeah, but right, and I'm with you. To me, the game doesn't even make sense sometimes, though. We're still talking about it if you clarify it. You know what I'm saying? But I think what happens is you get the appetizer and you don't even see like a little bit more food behind the appetizer. You're like, oh, good cookie, run away, and then that's what it seems like. It was like there's more there, buddy. Like there's a couple more cookies. You just want the one, mine, my precious. That's what it seems like. All right, let's move on. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast, we have a couple mock drafts, of course, and we have some Nata Edwards takes on Lavar Ball, still trying to figure out a way to have the Ball brothers play in L.A., except play for the Clippers. Yeah, Lavar is out here on social media trying to make that happen. We'll get to that in just a moment. Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time?
Game Time.
There's nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere you must experience live, and this year's matchups in the finals are already delivering. If you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats, even for the biggest playoff games. Prices on the app actually drop closer to tip-off, And with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. I love that I can see my exact view before I buy with no surprises. The app makes it ridiculously simple. 2 taps, then you're done. And with Game Time Guarantee, you know you're getting the best deal. If you find a better price in the same row and section, they'll credit you with 110% of the difference. It works for the NFL as well. The schedule just released, so pick out a game, maybe your local area. I told you a million times, I'm looking at that Rams game when the Rams come to Charlotte, going to Bank of America Stadium there, and then you'll find great seats for as low as $100 thanks to exclusive discounts, which in the NFL is like $5. It's like pocket change. If you're talking about NFL ticket money, yeah, that could go way up past $100. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. More Locked On Hornets ahead. Okay, you want to go Lavar Ball clip first? You want to talk about Lavar still angling for the Ball brothers to play with the Clippers? So the exact quote here from Lavar, I don't know what exactly it was, but I just know that he continues to put out videos of Lonzo, LaMelo, they were shooting in an empty gym, and he's still trying to get them to go to the Clippers because, of course, of what happened with Lonzo and the Lakers. He wants the Ball brothers in L.A. because he feels like L.A. is big enough to hold both of their star power, and he doesn't want them to play for the big boy franchise that just sold for $10 billion, by the way, with the Lakers, because it didn't work out between the Lakers and Lonzo. So now, out of spite, he wants both of LaMelo and Lonzo to play with the Clippers. Even LiAngelo. I'm sure he wants LiAngelo to play with them as well. When Lavar continues to discuss this, it's funny because we actually didn't hear a lot from Lavar, I would say, like early on in LaMelo's tenure with Charlotte. It felt relatively quiet. Remember, we can go back even before, 2017, right when Lonzo was about to get drafted. Lavar was everywhere. He's on First Take, never lost. He's talking to everybody. LaMelo's drafted. We think we might hear a lot from him. We really don't. But now it feels like we're starting to hear a few things here and there over the last year, especially as it pertains to the Clippers. What do you make of all of it, Nata?
Honestly, it just feels like one of those situations where we're talking about a guy who just had a big medical procedure done that wants his kids all in one spot. Like, a lot of this feels like a lot of hot air. And more importantly, there's something called a beautiful thing called the NBA contract, which holds LaMelo Ball here. And the Hornets have to get requisite compensation for them to trade him. So if that's going to be the case, and if he wants the Clippers to do it and the Clippers want to do it, go get a whole bunch of first round picks, make them valuable, make them unprotected, and then make a deal. After that, unless it's that, then this is a lot of hot air and it's a non-story to me, quite honestly.
What you think, Doug?
Yeah, this feels like a lot of dad stuff. This doesn't feel very real. And I will say he did wait until LaMelo Ball had the contract in hand. He got the max deal, and now, so he was responsible enough to wait until all of that was in hand to start making some noise again. I don't think this is too much of a concern for the Charlotte Hornets. The big concern is just him being healthy and back on the floor and seeing what they can do with him and Brandon Miller. That's all that really matters. And then all the other stuff is noise and will continue to be. So I don't take too much from that. And honestly, I'm not even really wanting to blow this up into this isn't, LaMelo's not serious, his family's not serious, none of this is, it's all a distraction. I don't maybe if LaMelo Ball had played in 60 plus games in both of the last 2 seasons and been in contention for awards, and the Hornets were on the doorstep of the playoffs or in the playoffs and lost in a first round series, and then LaVar Ball had started talking all this stuff, then maybe I would have said, okay, this is ridiculous. We need to be focused on the right things. But they're not even anywhere near that. So I don't think this is a big deal.
Yeah, same. I don't think it's a big deal. I do want to ask you this, maybe rapid fire before we dive into some mock drafts. I will say, could LaMelo just come out and say, hey, I know what Dad is talking about. I know he wants me in LA, and I get it. It makes a lot of sense. But I'm happy here with the Hornets. I'm just ready to get ready for, or I'm just getting ready for the 25-26 regular season.
I mean, it would help, but we wouldn't believe him, unfortunately. The way this attention economy goes, even if he said that, because he said quite literally at exit interviews,
he does.
I want to be here.
Yeah.
So he says it enough to where it really is a non-story. Okay, Lavar Ball said something. Congratulations. We've moved back to 2021 or so. Like that's what it feels.
Isn't it funny that it was earlier than that? Because I just did that thing. I was trying to find the timeline of when Lavar was really big like that. It's like 7 years ago. Time is a ridiculous thing. Anyways.
So again, we're talking about a guy that hasn't really been relevant in like 6 or 7 years, and he wants something. Okay, people in hell want ice water. Same thing.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't. In fact, I think it would make it worse if he said something. I think he's done the right thing, which is when he's asked, he says, I want to be in Charlotte. This is what I'm about. And I think if you even go back to Lonzo, like I think all of the Ball brothers have been very clear that like what dad says is what dad says. He's a great dad. We love our dad. And our dad has been committed to helping us become pros since we were little boys, and we love dad. But our career is our career, and what we say is what we say, and what dad says is what dad says. And that's all they've ever said. And so that's all I care about at this point. Again, I think this would be a bigger deal if he had played more significant time, if the Hornets were in any kind of contention for anything. But right now, it remains noise, and all that matters. Tattoos don't matter. Nothing. What Lavar Ball says doesn't matter. All that matters is that he's fully healthy and ready to go for the next season, because he is super important to what the Hornets are trying to do.
Yeah, Nata, is it more impressive that LaMelo is able to have the pain tolerance of 5 people tattooing him at the same time?
That's the cool part.
Or is it more concerning that Lavar, whooped as you know what in what were they playing, backgammon? I didn't know what that game was that they were playing.
I think it was backgammon. I do believe it was backgammon.
Okay.
But also, like, I'm just impressed. If I had the cash to go get 5 tattoos at once and get it all done and not have to worry about it for the rest of the summer, I would do it. I would go do that. That is very impressive. That is, okay, I'm going to sit in a spot quite literally and do nothing, because you can't move if you have 5 different guys doing this. And so I'm going to do that. And then on top of that, I'm going to go get shots up over at the BBB gym, which for all Lavar's faults, pretty impressive arena. It looks like it's a pretty impressive gym. So I do think that like that's more impressive than what Lavar's saying at this point.
I have 0 tattoos, but I'm about to be 38 years old. So I'm closing in on the silly midlife crisis thing to do, and tattoos definitely up there on the list. No. And so I promise you, if I get 1 tattoo, I will get 5 tattoos at the same time, and they will all be mock drafts. I'll just have mock drafts tattooed all over my body.
You're going to have 3 from Wasserman. he's the mock draft king.
I'll tell you where Phony Gavoni's tattoo is going. I'll tell you where it's going right now.
I can guess.
Oh, dear. All
Jeremy,
I want to know.
Ooh, that's more like.
Jeez, dude. I just want to see producer Katie's face when you come home with these mock draft tattoos. I just want to see that. That's all I want to see.
What happened to Daddy? That's what's
exactly.
Why does he have Wasserman's name on his face? Why is that? Is it going to be a Tyson tat?
The Charlotte Hornets happened, honey. He became a Charlotte Hornets fan when he was a little boy, and he became cursed for life.
And we lost him to the madness.
Yeah, that's true.
To the sickness. Yes, I've got a mock draft here. It is from Kevin O'Con, man, and he has updated his mock draft, and this is a good bow to put on this episode. Cooper Flag goes number 1. Dylan Harper goes number 2. Ace Bailey goes number 3, not to the Philadelphia 76ers. We've got a mock trade here. The Pelicans trade up. They send Herb Jones to the Sixers for the 3rd pick, and Kelly Oubre. The 7th pick goes to the Sixers. So the Sixers trade down, and the Pelicans take Ace Bailey, leaving VJ Edgecombe right there for the taking. Do the Hornets do it? According to Kevin O'Con, man, no, they do not. They take Kon Knueppel out of Duke. Honestly, here's the thing, Nata. I think this is, if you were to make me make a prediction right now, I honestly think either this happens or the Hornets trade back and take Yakichonis or something. I really feel like at this point, the Ace Bailey is going to go 3, whether it's to the Sixers or to some other team that trades up. I think all this Ace Bailey stuff is just complete noise. He is going to be a top 3 pick. Some team is going to want to get up there and do it. And then the Hornets are going to pass on VJ Edgecombe.
I think the Hornets end up trading back. I do think that Bailey goes 3. I do think that the Hornets are going to do just enough to convince somebody to go give them another asset, to go get another NBA player, and then feel comfortable to draft Kon Knueppel. I do not think that we're going to get another scenario like Tajon Salon. I do think that they're actually going to go get the asset that they actually want, because this, again, is a 19-win team. And if you come out of this draft with Kon Knueppel and 2 second-rounders, granted of varying quality, I think you've come away underwhelmed for a 19-win team.
Last thing for me, we've talked a decent amount about Yakuchonis, especially with Kristen Peak, putting that name out there. She, at 4 p.m. on draft day, was the only one that sniffed out the Hornets' interest in Tajon Salon and called it. So I do think there's some Yakuchonis interest. Who is the Tajon Salon this year, though? If they trade back, like you're predicting, and they're in that 7 to 10 range, whatever range they're in, is there a guy that we're not talking about that the Hornets could be interested in enough and surprise us all? Like, because we didn't even talk about Salon, but like one episode last year, not even like half a segment of one episode last year. We didn't talk about him a lot.
Noah Song, another French guy. Okay. I think a song, or I think it's either Song or Sengwe. I think it's
Essengay, I think it's Essengay.
But a bunch of the French guys. I think a lot of the French guys are not getting talked up enough about. We hear Essengay get talked in the top 7 of this draft. It would not shock me at all if they went to the French side yet again for another guy that could be a tweener 4/center who is absolutely killing it right now overseas.
If they do that, if they take another home run swing on a project in the trade back, they better trade back a little bit deeper, and they better come away with some kind, maybe multiple assets that they can use to be a little bit more competitive next season. Or I think I would be severely underwhelmed and what are we doing? Is this like a 10-year plan? Like, what is happening? So, they've got to come away with multiple players that they can pair next to LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller to add, like veteran players that they could actually be more competitive next season.
So if Herb Jones came in that deal, would that be underwhelming? And would that be underwhelming where they go get Herb Jones, give you a reason to theoretically trade Miles Bridges, and you get a Essengay, and then maybe another first rounder, like the number 23 pick? Like, I would think that would be enough to where I would be okay with it.
It would not be my pick, but I think Herb Jones would be a perfect addition to what the Hornets are trying to do.
Can I tell you how much I would freaking love Herb Jones on this roster? I can't tell you how much I would freaking not on Herb. It's my favorite nickname. It's certainly up there. Not on Herb Jones. Oh my God. I'd be screaming that from Media Row. They'd have to take me away.
Yes,
but if it were me, I would say, why not try to do that deal and then also take Kon Knueppel, or also to take someone that, because you've already got Tajon Salon, who they clearly believe in. We just did video this week of everyone involved with the team seemingly at one of his workouts, trying to help him be better. Like, they're already bought in there. Why take another project? Why not just add more pieces that can actually help this team win now?
Because he's not a project. He's not in the Tajon Salon project camp. He's more closer to fully baked product than he's in the Salon camp. I think we have to remember Salon was drafted in probably one of the shallowest drafts that we can remember in recent history. It's a little bit different with this draft. If you're going top 7 in this draft, you were probably more closer to ready to play immediately than if you are in Tajon Salon's camp.
You're saying this is a fully baked French pastry compared to Tajon Salon, where we're still waiting.
Yeah, it's not par baked. It's not. Again, this is not a par baked Parisian. This is actually a fully baked Frenchman.
Love it. Nata Edwards, Love Nata Edwards joining us as he does so often during draft time. Ion College Basketball Podcast. Go check the pod out. He produces the college basketball podcast out there with Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish. Doug Branson, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Also Locked On NBA, doing a lot of great stuff, keeping you up to date with what's going on in the NBA Finals and the NBA Draft. And Matt Moore's all over the place, man. Shout out to Matt, doing a great job also. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3, except for this week where I'm on from 3 to 6 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.